Another day, another FNAF controversy. Think of this as a follow-up to the last time when we talked about FNAF and Scott Cawthon in the controversy on the hate wagon and whatnot. But last time, it was mostly about the political donation stuff, and there was a lot of things to juggle around. Here, it's kinda clear and concise, but not really. What is up, YouTube? It's your boy SmackNPie here, and welcome to another video. So, I wanted to give my 2 cents on the situation. Not that many people care, but since I covered that one, I felt like, you know what, let me put my take on the situation at hand. So what we're dealing with are 2 cases that took over FNAF fandom for the past like 2-3 weeks, for the past month now. That is the Talbert Files and PinkyPills. Let's talk about the Talbert File because this is something that I think literally everybody was confused about and it made no sense. What basically happened is that there was this supposed beta version and early rejected deleted archive version of the Freddy Files books that had a bunch of lore that would have confirmed a lot of lore stuff. Okay, it came out in such a weird and creepy way, and fans were like, oh my goodness, this is the best discovery in FNAF since FNAF. And there were a lot of speculations that people are literally falling for it. I'm gonna be honest with you, I don't know much about this situation, but after doing a quick research, I remember when the Talbert Files whole scenario popped up, I thought it was a fan-made thing. I thought a fan thing became so popular that people were thinking that it was fake, and that's exactly what happened, except it was a deliberate hoax. Scott Cawthon came forth and cleared the whole deal. Basically, he said, just like everybody else, he doesn't know what Talbert Files is. He hasn't even looked at it. He said that I never said it was fake, despite the emails I'm getting. We're talking about 2017. That was a long time ago. If it's an unpublished version of the Freddy Files, like everyone says, then it was obviously rejected. Lots of stuff get rejected. One thing that everyone needs to keep in mind is that a lot of companies that I work with come up with products from time to time that try to fill in the gaps of the lore. They essentially create new lore, trying to create a product. This happens a lot more than you may realize. Almost every time this happens, however, I step in and say, no, don't create lore, just focus on established lore. And he gives on an example like, even as a small detail like an EST 1983 on a t-shirt, I'll say no, don't include an established date because that confuses the lore. And he goes on to explain everything, and then he at the end he said, okay, I've been looking through some of the Talbert Files pages and I couldn't find any downloadable versions, but I watched YouTube videos browsing through it. I can pretty confidently say that Talbert Files, they are fake, not an unreleased Freddy Files. It looks completely unfamiliar to me and not something Scholastic, that's the company behind the one that, partnered with Scott Cawthon on the books and whatnot, would have put together. It also mentions characters that weren't created until years later. Pretty sure it is fake, folks, because we're talking about, and like I said, this is just like me, a few minutes of just a small research. I'm sure there are fans that are out there that can explain this a lot better, but giving phone guy name and even the missing kids' last names and whatnot, come on, we're talking all the way back in Freddy Files? Yeah, bro, you're tripping, bro. Okay, so that's the end of this controversy. That's the end of this page. Talbert Files, they're fake, but could have been a good fan-made project. Okay, we move past that. Let's talk about the main one, the Pinky Pills. Okay, prior to this, I had only seen one statement regarding this. The only reason I remember this name PinkyPills is because of a statement I saw on Twitter that was circling around, and it was something like this: I think of Scott Cawthon when I touch myself. What? Okay. I know how that sounds, ladies and gentlemen, and that cat is meowing literally outside my door. Come on, chill out, man. Okay, I feel like I owe you guys a whole explanation. Basically, PinkyPills is a fan artist, but a freelance one that Scott Cawthon hires and have been recently a lot for her arts, for Freddy Fazbear, various pieces of media for the franchise Five Nights at Freddy's. There's going to be a whole thread of everything she's done for the franchise, everything that, she's worked for Scott. There's going to be a whole thread of who she is. It literally goes in every single details, nitty gritty with the allegations, and I'll link them in the description, but I'm going to TLDR the whole thing. So when you start reading into things, you're like, holy crud. And by the way, like this took me like 15 to 22, even 30 minutes. I read the whole thread. I read everything. And it is crazy, bro. This rabbit hole goes beyond. How was she still with the franchise. How is she still working for Scott is beyond me, bro. Okay, so there are two characters in this whole story. The Lady Fitz, which I'm gonna come to in just a second, and PinkyPills. Basically, she has made posts and comments in the past that are very questionable. She has done arts that are very suggestive. It would be one thing if she has done that in a different franchise, but making for FNAF that is very accessible to teens and kids, and making suggestive arts and content and thinking it is okay even though the rules states and suggests that's not the case, doubling down on it, saying that it is you guys who are the problem, your minds are dirty. But that's not even where it starts or even stops, bro. There are tracing allegations. Again, there's gonna be a whole thread in the description, you can check it out. There's a lot of tracing allegations. You be the judge of that. I'm not gonna take any side and whatnot. There are responses, there are proofs, evidences. Again, you be the judge of that tracing allegation. Then there are comics that she's made, and the main reason, and one of the main reasons why we're here today, is her comic called Daydreaming, where it is 6 pages and it depicts her version of William Afton staring at an injured girl through a window and fantasizing about her. It goes even crazy and disgusting. This idea would spread more when previous messages made by PinkyPills on Steam and DeviantArt was uncovered, with the former being a comment she made on the Steam forums in 2015 about how she believed Purple Guy was a pedo. She then made a response stating that her goal at the time was to portray the madness in the mind of a child murderer and offer an explanation for those horrific crimes, and that her intention was never depicting him as having sexual thoughts upon seeing the girl. She follows this up by stating once she became aware of how unsettling the comic appeared to the community as a result of being misinterpreted, she deleted it from all of her social media channels. Now that is just one of many cases that I read, and it is insane. And again, of course, I wanted to talk about this one specific case, bro. Here it says a user by the name of Mr. Mecha made a post titled "Confess Your Sins, FNAF fans." One of the users who commented on the thread was PinkyPills, where she confessed to a handful of things such as finding Springtrap cute. I'm not gonna comment on that because that has popped up a lot more in the recent times, especially with how people fantasize William Afton, but we're not going to comment on that, not just yet. She had played World, the FNAF World, for more than 100 hours, and that she was collecting bootleg photos of FNAF plushies, as well as stating that when she touches herself, she thinks about Cawthon. I am not making this up, bro. This is like one of those delusional FNAF fan moments, but this is not it, bro. With many users expressing that they found that behavior, especially in regards to the former, inappropriate and professional. What seals the deal for, and there's a lot more, again, link in the description. What seals the deal for me is that it would be one thing for her to be doing this in the past, but the fact that even after that, she would double down and react and act like it is not a big deal, and calling everyone who opposes that behavior, find that behavior uncomfortable and disgusting, saying you guys are the problem. Like I said in the beginning of the video, is that what is beyond me is that how long she worked for FNAF officially, but also she would only then come forth and either take down the posts or arts, or either go back on her word only if Scott tells her to, because we know, again, in the thread, that she has said one of the times that Scott told her to stay away from certain, topics and certain matters and whatnot. And let's talk about Lady Fitz. I'm just gonna call her Fitz, even though it says Fitzy or whatnot. She's also an artist who worked officially for Five Nights at Freddy's franchise. She was the first member of the community to be brought on to work on the series officially, and TLDR, kind of sort of similar, but she was also found out to be, making some crazy comments, doing some very suggestive and disgusting and uncomfortable, things in her art that were related to FNAF, and Scott fired her for it. And this is why we're here. People were saying, okay, if you can do that to her, why not to PinkyPills? Things were going crazy until Scott made an official post where here he says, okay, this is what I have to say about the situation. Claudia, PinkyPills has been doing art for me for many years now. She isn't an employee, she is just one of many artists who I call on when I think her skills are right for the job. She added a huge amount of personality and humor to the Freddy in Space games, as almost all of the insane boss designs from the Freddy in Space series were her ideas. In fact, I had her working on another game for the FNAF anniversary. That's the one that's coming later this year, FNAF Into the Pit. But we're not talking about the same. We don't know if that's the same game or if it's a different plan that he has. She has also made mistakes over the years, and I don't think she would deny that. In fact, she doesn't deny that. I don't know all of the details of every situation, I won't pretend to, but what I can say is that from my observation, she has always made an honest effort to better herself, learn from her mistakes, and not repeat them. I also don't consider her mistakes to be of the same severity as other similar circumstances. In a specific case, we're talking about Lady Fitz because he outright fired her and whatnot. That doesn't mean everyone is going to like her or like her art style, and that's okay. That's why I have other artists and more on the way. Everyone has their strengths and weaknesses, but I would still like to call on her when I feel her skills are the right for the job. And I hope that this fan base would be receptive to that. I believe that she has worked in good faith to try to redeem her mistakes of the past. Again, I hope the fan base will be receptive to this. I know that I've needed second chances in my own life, so I try to give them when I can. That's not always possible, but I think in this case it can be. So after this, we don't know what happened in the background. PinkyPills came forth and she said that she is now moving on from this franchise. She has left on her own terms, but people are expecting that she was kind of sort of fired. Okay, so this is where we're at. Scott is getting bombarded on Twitter as expected, and for the first time on Reddit as well. There are a lot of people that, this post doesn't have that many upvotes. These people are downvoting this post, and here's my take on the matter. I think what's happening here is that since Scott knows this person for a long time now because she has worked for her, we're talking professionally only. I said worked for her, I meant to say worked for him. We're talking professional relationship only. I feel like what's happening here is that Scott is seeing her and all these statements that are coming from the past and the comments and the stuff that she's done from the past that are, that were resurfacing. We're not talking about now. This has been like old news for a while now. I think what's happening here is this in the same way as if someone you would know, a friend of yours, he has done some questionable things in the past and now everybody's holding that person, your friend, accountable. And you're like, bro, I know the things that he's did. They're questionable, sussy, but I know this person from personal experience, of course, and he has a good heart, and I feel like you should give him a chance. I feel like that's what's happening here. So there seems to be a divide on what the community wants versus what Scott wants. They're not happening on the same level, if that makes any sense. Like here this time I'm 50-50 because I understand exactly why the community is outraged and why the community would want something like this, to Scott to take 100% actually be like, hey, this is it. I am firing her. I've just researched the whole thing, and bro, she's not part of that anymore, just like Lady Fitz. I think him firing Lady Fitz is also coming to light now, and some people are finding this behavior a little unsatisfactory. People are like, great that she, left, but Scott should have put his foot down and fired her. That would have, made a statement that, hey, whatever, right? From an outside, you'd be like, you gotta do better. This is wrong. And that person be like, no, bro, it is you who's wrong. I'm good. But their friend is like, I get you. He's a good person from the heart. He just says and does things like this that are questionable. Again, does that excuse everything that has happened and everything that she's done? Absolutely not. She's left, case closed. But of course, a sour taste has been this community's mouth, where people are like, Scott should have done a research. Like it took me like 30 minutes. Other than the first statement that I knew, it took me around about 20 to 30 minutes to read the whole thread and realize, oh wow, that's again, like I said, this is the third time I'm saying it is beyond me how she was still working for 5 Nights at Freddy's officially. But I feel like we should give Scott a benefit of the doubt, saying, okay, we understand you, Scott, but still, you should have fired her the first chance you've got. I understand that the people that works for him, he trusts them as long as the talent is good. But I feel like with stuff like this, it's always a double-edged sword that we're here. Good thing is, this is hopefully the last time we're gonna hear about PinkyPills and Lady Fitz being associated with FNAF. Hopefully. And hopefully this closes the chapter. Let's move on to 5 Nights at Freddy's of the 10th anniversary for FNAF at Freddy's. Susu for more. I'll see you in the next one.